welcome for tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the Beijing Climate Centre today. Had quite an interesting update this week from the Beijing Climate Centre. We'll have a look at that in a moment. We'll have a look at some charts for the next week to 10 days or so. It will be saying very unstable. Of course, the Met Office confirming today that it's the wettest January on record. Now, their records go back, I believe, to 1910, but it's probably even wetter than that. It could be the wettest January. There are some weather stations that have records going back into the 1800s. The Bay Plate Weather Station in Coventry is one such station that has records going back to the 1870s, and there it has been the wettest on their records back to the 1870s. So a phenomenally wet January, and it looks like going on into the start of February at any rate. Now, before I get on with that, just want to mention the advertising. There's video ads on my pages at gazweathervids.com. If you can hit play on the video ad, you'll be supporting gazweathervids.com. And thanks very much for doing that. It does pay for the website, so thanks so much for getting involved and helping to support gazweathervids.com. So, we've had an update from the Beijing Climate Centre for the next month. The Beijing Climate Centre is a longer range model that does seasonal forecasts going out through the seasons. It also does monthly forecasts. It updates about every 5 or 6 days for the coming month. Now, these are broken down into 10-day periods, so this is going to be taking us eventually to the start of March. It's 500 millibar height anomalies that we're looking at, and the first 10-day period will be taking us from the 26th of January, which is when the model updated, to the 2nd of the 4th, of February. So that 10-day period that we're currently in, basically, going out to the start of February. And very obvious what's going on here. The blue colours, of course, below average heights, which extrapolates to low pressure. There's the British Isles just there. So we've quite obviously got a very deep trough of low pressure running across the Atlantic, a really strong jet stream blasting through, bringing lots of areas of low pressure, copious amounts of rain as well. There's the blocking up over Scandinavia, stretching back into western parts of Russia. So it's basically a very good summation of the pattern that we've got, that we're currently in, and we're going to be staying in for the rest of the coming week or so, which is low pressure to be crashing off the Atlantic and high pressure sitting to the northeast, sort of blocking the flow. So that's why it's so very, very wet, because the low pressures are not clearing the country as they normally would in a typical sort of zonal spell. That high pressure over Scandinavia to the northeast, very much holding things up. So that's the first 10-day period. The second 10-day period, which takes us from the 5th of February to the 14th of February, shows that, the trough is actually weakening a little bit. Again, there's the British Isles just there, so we're losing the intensity of the trough. Nevertheless, it's still low pressure, below average heights dominating. We've still got the jet stream coming in off the Atlantic. It just won't be quite as bad as the 10-day period that we're currently in. But notice things are turning increasingly blocked up over Greenland. We are starting to set up the orange colours over Greenland with high pressure, and that extends out to an area of high pressure up to the north of Scandinavia. So basically, the northern latitude becoming increasingly blocked from the 5th to the 14th of February, but we're still more or less in the same pattern with the low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. So still unsettled, just not the rainfest of the coming week. Now, things get very interesting then once we get through to the 15th to the 24th of February, because then we start to shift the pattern quite a bit. We develop this area of high pressure over Greenland, of course, and we've got the high pressure then extending down through into the Atlantic as well. And that's starting to block off this area around Newfoundland, which is where the low pressures have very much been spawning, that eastern part of Canada. Now we're extending this ridge down from Greenland. At the same time, we've got this trough of low pressure setting up over and to the south and the southeast of the British Isles into the continent. So what's going on there is that the jet stream is rising up around that ridge in the Atlantic and around Greenland, and then it's coming southwards around the trough in the Atlantic and going into in the Atlantic around British Isles and into central parts of Europe. So we're very much under a cold trough there with the Atlantic becoming blocked, the ridge going up to Greenland, what you would get from that is a much colder northerly sort of flow. You would start to set up northerly, possibly northeasterly or easterly winds. You bring cold air around that trough of low pressure, and that could be a signal for a much colder end to February. And this does happen sometimes when you have a very mild winter. You can get to the very end of it, right at the end of February, you can start to shift a pattern and turn it a lot colder. Now, whether this is actually right, of course, we've had lots of teases, lots of messing about through this winter with longer range models trying to turn things colder, but it never really coming off. This could be a case that the Beijing Climate Centre is leading us up the garden path once again, as other models have done this winter. But it is interesting, it's there to be looked at, so just file it under sort of interesting possibilities. As we go through to the final 10-day period, which takes us from the 25th of February to the 6th of March, so we're going into March with this, well, we start to lose the blocking then over Greenland. Heights are lowering, but we have still got some high pressure in the Atlantic around Newfoundland, so consequently we've still got this ridge, we've still got the trough, to the south of the British Isles and extending into the continent as well. That still is a cold pattern. The jet stream will still be riding around that ridge and then around the trough like that. So we're still on the cold side of the jet. We're still under a cold trough. But clearly you can see things are starting to break down with that. So it's probably not a prolonged cold spell that the Beijing Climate Centre is seeing. I think eventually the jet stream would break that ridge down and we'd start to run the jet stream back through the Atlantic into British Isles like that. So probably not a prolonged cold spell, but it's seeing. But it is certainly seeing a much colder end to February. Just very quickly go back to that 500 millibar anomaly for February. We've not seen anything like that through the winter, that kind of anomaly with a ridge from the Atlantic going up to Greenland, blocking off Newfoundland where the low pressures are spawning in the trough around the British Isles and going into the continent as well. That's a cold signal for the end of February. Just interesting. We'll have to see whether the JMA, when it updates tomorrow, sort of backs that up. It's probably just Beijing Climate Centre playing with possibilities. It probably won't actually come to anything, but it is interesting that it is seeing that colder into February, some proper winter would set in there. But whatever happens at the end of February, for the foreseeable future, going out probably to the middle of February, it's staying unsettled, and the Beijing Climate Centre was saying that anyway. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. Temperatures, first of all, the red line where we should be. We're a little bit below average. Actually, it's been snowing across some parts of the country today, not amounting to anything, but it has been noticeable. We have had some snow for the first time this winter across parts of East Anglia, the Midlands into northern England. There may be a few more flakes to come in places as well. Now, tomorrow we're going to push the temperatures briefly above average with a very deep area of low pressure associated with this big rainfall spike here. Then we'll go back down a little bit below average over the weekend, quite a chilly weekend coming up. But the trend overall through the first week to 10 days of February, this is the 14th of February over here, is to start to push those temperatures up a little bit. We will see things becoming milder, I think, as we go through the first half of February. And, well, look at all these rainfall spikes coming up. It's going to be absolutely appalling, isn't it? All that rainfall, it's going to be absolutely dreadful. So many places already suffering from flooding, and that can only get worse as we move into February with those copious rainfall spikes there. That looks really very concerning indeed for those places that are already flooded, and no doubt there'll be more places becoming flooded through February, because of course those areas that haven't had flooding yet, their river levels, their groundwater levels are already full to bursting point. So with so much more rainfall coming up through February, the first half of February anyway, there can only be more flooding, and that really is very, very concerning for those people. The generic charts finally. This is the the chart for the week in a week's time. The 6th of February, and well, no different really. The jet stream is more or less to the south of the country, but it's running in these areas of the low pressure. Heavy rain would be sweeping in with those low pressures, strong winds as well. This is the day 10 chart, the 9th of February. low pressure all the way, bands of heavy rain coming in across the country. Really will be very, very wet for the first week to 10 days. That was for GFS. This is the ECMWF. No different from the 6th of February. In a week's time, low pressure is dominating. And for day 10, low pressure is still dominating, trying to raise a little bit of high pressure there to the south. But that just locks in weather fronts across the country. We've probably got a weather front strung out here, actually, across England and Wales in particular. That's where the black line is, the jet stream, and there's probably a weather front along that jet stream. So that's producing heavy bouts of rain, probably prolonged rain, across England and Wales as well. It's a very worrying picture for the first 10 days of February. It's been so wet anyway, it's staying very wet. I say very concerning that we're seeing this signal for all this rainfall to come in the models through the first half of February. There's going to be more flooding. It's going to be very nasty. Whether it turns colder later in February, we'll have to wait and see. We've got to see whether other longer range models agree with that. We'll have another update from the JMA tomorrow. It'll be JMA Friday, so it'll be interesting to see whether that is picking up on the same signal as the Beijing Climate Centre for that cold end to February. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.